good morning and welcome to week 5 of the Hearthstone Global Games. This is Derek, I'm Falcone, and we have got a whole host of matches to bring you today.
We do indeed. We're getting down to the point where players are already qualified through. We've got a couple teams, or 3 teams actually, at 4-0, meaning that they've got themselves that spot through to the top 16, which we'll be going to in week 7. But we still do have a lot of teams hovering on that mark, 3-1, 2-2, where they're not quite out, not quite qualified through yet. So still all to play for here at the Global Games.
Let's take a look at the standings and see who those teams are. There we go, the Kingpins at the top there, but it's more those lower teams that we're interested in today. There are actually going to be 4 elimination matches today between Belarus, Indonesia, between Portugal and Romania, between Italy and New Zealand, and between Belgium and Peru. These are the teams teetering on the edge of being eliminated from the Hearthstone Global Games. Also
some teams right on the brink of qualifying through, as I believe we have Netherlands, Singapore and Hong Kong versus Switzerland as well coming on later today. To see who will be going through to the top 16, joining as we see Ukraine, Brazil and China.
Yeah, but as you can see there, so many teams at 2-2 this week. There are going to be a lot of teams eliminated from the Hearthstone Global Games as we go into next week, which is the final week of this phase of the tournament. And then after that, we end up with only 16 teams left. It's getting brutal out there.
It is, but it's still good to see. We've got to knock them out at some point. And with such strong competition and such strong teams being eliminated, I think anyone left at this point already has, you know, a big accomplishment. Getting this far and not being eliminated is not easy.
Let's take a look at today's games. As we said, 4 of these are, well, not these, the off-stream ones included. These games, Taiwan, Ukraine, Belarus, Indonesia, Brazil, China, Netherlands, Singapore, and Portugal, Romania, though, they're all pretty exciting in one way or another.
Yeah, I think the highlight game for me has to be Portugal versus Romania.
I agree.
Because it is an elimination match, which we always love to see here at the Global Games. And 2 teams which have been doing, I have to be honest, from where I'm sat, you know, surprisingly well. I think maybe Portugal is a team I'd put a lot of stock into. But again, outside of RDU, we don't know that much about the Romanian players.
And there you go, the off-stream matches, Italy, New Zealand, and Belgium versus Peru are both elimination matches. 2 of those teams are going to be knocked out of the tournament today.
Yeah, I cannot wait to get into it. Again, all the VODs of the off-stream matches, if you are curious, are available on the Hearthstone Esports YouTube channel. I believe they go up about 24 hours within the matches being played. And we always get messages every week from the players saying, you've got to watch our game. There was something insane happening this week. Sometimes they're right, sometimes they're just boasting and want to get some airtime.
So if there's not enough Hearthstone Global Games content for you here, you can go and watch all of the off-stream matches after the broadcast. But for now, let's take a look at the first match of the day. It's Ukraine versus Taiwan. Derek, why don't you talk me through Team Taiwan?
So Team Taiwan, again, my pick to take the entirety of the Global Games. Tom60229 needs absolutely no introduction, the current world champion. And then a couple of the boys from AHQ, with AHQ Shaxi doing very well indeed in the point standings is his kind of current claim to fame. And then Real kind of being the, I would say, least well-known, at least in the English-speaking Hearthstone community. But still, they've been putting up a very strong performance, only losing now to China, I believe, the undefeated team.
So you're going to want to see Taiwan take this one, as you said, they are your pick. But Ukraine is Dan Gaskin's pick. And as I'm also a Dan, I guess in terms of this desk, that makes Ukraine my pick.
Okay, I'll take that. Anything
I'll just be the embodiment of Dan Gaskin for now.
You can't even compare. I'm sorry. I think for this week for Taiwan, they really do have their work cut out for them. Ukraine, obviously the second place runners-up to the Global Games last year, and a 3-1 score, or sorry, a 4-0 score. They are looking to make a pretty good repeat run.
Well, what did you think? Yesterday on the community show, we had all of the viewers on Twitch live vote on which team they thought was going to win this game. And the survey says Ukraine going to take this one. Sorry, Derek.
Well, what do you know? Twitch chat's wrong.
Let's take a look at the picks and bans for Taiwan versus Ukraine.
Starting off with the Rogue being banned from Taiwan. I believe that would be yet another Quest Rogue. We're seeing a lot of them knocking about. Very strong. Oh no, sorry, it's an Odd Rogue for Taiwan. So Ukraine afraid of the aggressive strategies coming through here from Taiwan. It's not often we see an Odd Rogue being banned first. It's nearly always the Quest Rogue. And then for Ukraine, the Quest Warrior being banned, I believe.
Odd Warrior.
Oh, is it Odd
Yep.
Warrior? Okay, well, I'm wrong on both fronts here. But the very aggressive versus the very anti-aggressive decks being both banned right out of the gate here kind of sets the stage for what both of these teams are going for. Taiwan, slightly more aggressive, getting rid of that Odd Warrior, also because they have the Malagos Druid thrown in there as well, whereas Ukraine trying to go with a slightly more anti-control strategy, I think, so getting rid of the aggressive decks.
We're going to see Odd Warriors banned all day, aren't we? It's just my luck.
We probably are, yeah.
Okay, a little bit of context there. Last year, we saw a little bit of Dragon Priest one day, so I spent like an entire weekend learning that deck, and then we never saw it again, and I never got to cast it again.
Yeah.
I think we've just had the same thing with Odd Warrior.
Yeah. Wait, have you been playing Odd Warrior?
Just a little bit.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, I mean, I only managed to fit in about 3 games a weekend, but yeah, I'm playing. Let's take a look at how these games have fallen into place. It's going to start off with Taiwan on the Zoo Warlock versus Ukraine on Big Druid. Now, we've not seen much Big Druid at all recently.
We haven't, but it's a deck that I am interested to see more of, as, like you said, a very underrepresented Druid when compared to the raw power of Malagos, Togwaggle, or Token Druid, all of which seem to be a little bit more popular. But given that it seems to be a Druid deck that can generally beat the other Druids, and also has respectable game against the aggressive deck still, you know, you're still running Spellstone, Plague, Malfurion, Swipe, all those good anti-aggro cards, and your late game, while it doesn't necessarily have the most value, when it does play onto the board, it just destroys.
They're running 1 copy of Biology Project, which I find quite exciting. It's not something we now see in any of the Malagos lists or anything, but I guess Big Druid, the whole game plan is put these huge minions on the board, so it's worth it. And they also run Forbiddenest Floop, which, I mean, a lot of these minions are good to copy with Forbiddenest Floop. I wouldn't mind a 4-mana Ysera, Hadronox, even Master Oakheart to summon another Dragon Hatcher, etc. Like, there are some crazy things you can do with Floop in this deck.
It's really not bad. Even if you just have to go for Coin Bright-Eyed Scout into literally playing another identical Bright-Eyed Scout in the Floop, why not? It's just so flexible in that deck, which is exactly what it needs, because it can be, I find, a little bit rigid in the way it plays in the late game in particular, because once you've done your ramping early on, you're just playing big stuff every single turn, your deck doesn't do anything else. It's very powerful often. I'm not saying that's a bad game plan, but it sometimes doesn't work in the right way. It's the wrong tool for the job, as it were. But Floop can help you, like you said, with just a little bit of extra stall if you need a specific minion like a board clear with a Primordial Drake, something like that, just to pull back board in your control.
And again, there are a few absurd things you can do with it. Like, again, Floop after Hadronox has been played, for example, for an extra layer of taunts there. If the draws are the right way, if you play Oakheart on 9 and they clear your board, you can play Floop on 10 and you get a second Oakheart board, which can be pretty absurd. Against Zoo, though, Kalento isn't going to have all that much time.
He isn't, but he has got, as we see him being intro there, a cheeky little smile on his face because he's drawn Greedy Sprite, Nourish, and Master Oakheart.
That's a good start.
Yeah, I think I would probably take that start if I were him. This is what the deck is supposed to do. You ramp and you play Oakheart, and you probably win the game of Hearthstone that you are currently playing.
Carnivorous Cube is interesting. Has Big Druid always run that card?
No, I don't think it has. It's much more of a Taunt Druid card, right?
Yeah.
To rely on going for Witching Hour and the Hadronox. I don't know why I said it like a weirdo there.
Hadronox.
Yep, just 1 copy of Carnivorous Cube. Obviously no Witching Hours because the Plague going to mess with that pretty bad. But Shaxi has also not got a hand that is to be sniffed at here. With the Flaming Voodoo Doctor, he can get off to a very nice aggressive start indeed, which Kalento is going to have to be ramping up mighty quickly against if he wants to get to that Oakheart in time.
I mean, it has to be said, yeah. Flaming Pinta Voodoo Doctor into the 0-mana 3/3 all on turn 2 is pretty good. Both players looking quite happy with their starts here. It's for Ukraine, for Kalento, it's just all about surviving to that Oakheart turn.
And that is not necessarily going to be easy. They have Coin Greedy Sprite if they wanted to, I guess. Because that allows them to start fighting back on the board. A 3-1 is not to be sniffed at here, but the curve just works out so miserably then, because Shaxi probably doesn't even kill it off. So Kalento doesn't even have 4, he just has 3 mana on the following turn. So going Greedy Sprite, Nourish, Coin Oakheart, very much to me looks like it is going to be the play.
Okay, Taiwan looking very happy with the Soul Infusion onto Sour Knight Chain Gang there, fitting in the tap this turn too. It's a little bit slow for now, but that Sour Knight will be out of control later. I'm looking at the way that Kalento's hand is starting to shape up here, and yeah, the Oakart, the Sprite, the Nourish, fantastic, but 2 Sleepy Dragons and 1 Dragon Hatcher.
Yeah,
it's getting a little bit awkward here. We're on the verge of ruining the entire Oakart play.
I mean, it's just karma, right? If you draw 2 ramp cards in an Oakart, you are then mandated to start drawing your dragons and your dragon hatches. As Kalento now only has, what, 2 dragons left in the deck?
Ysthera and the second Drake,
Yeah. Which is not bad, you know, that's still a strong play onto the board, but it's only 8 health of Taunt that he's actually summoning from the deck at that point, which with the way it's currently shaping out, may just not be enough, right?
I mean, he's just dead on board right now, so he has to actually play this swipe in order to survive.
Is he? No, he's not dead on board.
Oh, sorry, if he hero powers, he's not.
Yeah.
Yeah, 3, 6, 10, 14, yeah. Okay. I mean, leaving your opponent at 1 off lethal, probably not the best move against the Zoo either.
I will agree with you.
He has to play the swipe, I think. What's the alternative? Coin Nourish hero power, and you don't have the 1 damage, but then you
then you can't even ramp into Oakart directly, right?
Right,
yeah.
and then he's dead as soon as Soulfire gets drawn because he's got no healing in his hand.
We are seeing risky plays here from the Ukraine, saying, you know what, bring us down to 1 health, see what we care. As you know, they can curve into an 8-drop on the following turn because the Death Rattle of the Greedy Sprite, and now they are just hoping there is no damage at all from Taiwan. But on turn 5 here, we have a lethal already. That has to be one of the quickest games we've seen here at the Global Game.
If not the quickest game that we've seen, yeah. I mean, turn 5 lethal is absurd. We did say Shaxi had a good start. We also said Kalento had a great start, but Kalento just couldn't quite get to his, which is really crazy.
Yeah, and if we take a look at the deck list for, Ukraine here, we can start to see some weaknesses showing through. They have only 1 copy of Spellstone, which is obviously a great card against any aggressive deck that you're looking just to snipe off those key minions with the Spellstone. Again, no Wraths because it's a big Druid, you just don't have room for it, and a fair few less of the early game cards that you're looking for in a Druid. So they are going to be leaving themselves a little bit more vulnerable to aggressive decks with the big Druid. But still, that was just pretty much the perfect curve for Taiwan, and they won because of it.
All right, next up, we're going to have Quest Rogue versus Odd Paladin. Real on the Odd Paladin, Ria on the Quest Rogue. Now, as far as Quest Rogue matchups go, this isn't a good one.
It's not the best. I will agree with you there. I mean, it's not quite as bad of a matchup for the Quest Rogue as Odd Warrior is.
We'll move on.
Fill him in.
We'll come back to that later.
Okay.
I don't want to.
You've just been doing well against Quest Rogue with Odd Warrior. Is the point? Yeah, is the meme.
Including in some playtesting with someone who I will not name.
But like you said, the Odd Paladin, not the matchup you're looking for as Quest Rogue. It's miserable for most aggressive decks against the Odd Paladin. And for Quest Rogue, even though obviously it's not an aggressive deck, it suffers from the same problem. You just don't have the board clears necessary, which aggressive decks usually don't. And therefore, you fall too far behind on the board. You can't complete your quest quickly enough, usually. There are some Quest Rogues that have started taking in Fan of Knives, not necessarily for this matchup, but more because they're finding Mimic Pod, you know, it's not quite quick enough. You want to actually do something on the board because you need to be a little bit more proactive. And in the slow matchups, you're never losing anyway, right? Or you should have such a favorable matchup anyway. And against these slightly quicker decks, it can be a very nice tool at your disposal. Ukraine, however, taking a look at their deck, it does actually run 1 copy of Fan of Knives. So there we go. We've got the tech in there that could actually help this matchup.
It's great. They can clear 1 set of boards. I mean, maybe that's okay. Like, clear the board before the level up turn, then have a Vanish after that. Maybe they can survive.
Well, that's the win con for Miracle Rogue in this matchup, isn't it? It's prep Fan, and then you play a big board, which is harder for the Quest Rogue to do. But even if they just go prep Fan into a Giggling Inventor or a couple of small minions that can fight back, it's something that they can do at least.
Speaking of Giggling Inventors, Rio does have his, but he's not the person that's going to want it, so I would expect a full mulligan from him. Neyria, though, Glacial Shard is one of the better cards. However, it's no good versus 2 1/1s per turn.
Yeah, I don't think you're keeping that. You just want to get the bounce going as quick as possible. The Prep's the only real card that I'm intrigued by from Ukraine because, well, with any spell, you know, you could go Prep Pod, Prep Fan. They do have 2 pods, a Fan of Knives, obviously 2 vanishes. If they hit one of those, it could be very, very powerful. But by the same metric, if they miss all of their spells, that prep is a dead card, and you simply cannot afford to have a dead card in this matchup. Everything needs to be working at maximum efficiency.
Oh, Real starts off with the Lost in the Jungle immediately. Let's get those 1-1s going. And hey, he's got the level up. He's got the Purifier's Maul. That's the best one in most cases with this deck.
Yeah, I think you'd probably prefer the +1 attack in this matchup. I guess the Fan of Knives does swing you back towards Purifier's Maul a little bit, because they're obviously going to be pretty hard mulliganing for that Fan o' Knives.
Second Lost in the Jungle drawn. I wonder if he'll consider playing the Blessing of Might here and the Lost in the Jungle rather than hero powering.
It's not the worst, right?
The only issue...
Like, you want to push damage really quickly. I think you still hero power.
Yeah, because he has the level up in hand, it's sort of worth holding on to that Lost in the Jungle for this absurd turn 6 or something.
If you do curve Lost in the Jungle, Blessing of Might into Purifier's Maul, that's a lot of damage though. Like,
it's true.
They would probably have to dagger down the 4 attack minion, right? Or send in a charger, which seems very inefficient. So I like the consideration from here. It's even though you pretty much always just go for the hero power here in this matchup, unless you can throw it on an Argent Squire or something. But yeah, I like this more, but I like the consideration still. As for Noria, it is looking to me like, as it currently stands, you have to go in with the Novice Engineer to complete the quest. It's a little bit slow. Well, actually, I guess you could go Glacial Shard, right? You just play it here and then start completing it with the Shard on the following turn.
Yeah, well, next turn he can squeeze in the dagger, he can freeze one, deal with one, maybe Novice Engineer deals with another one, but it's starting to get out of control here.
Yeah.
Now Taiwan, they could play them all, or they could go Righteous Protector Hero Power and just really set up for this level up. I guess there's got to be this element of playing around Fan of Knives, though.
You kind of want to play around Fan, yeah, is the main thing, and also it's just completely nuts. Like, if you get a level up, they literally have to have Vanish or you win the game on the spot. And so I like putting your opponent on having to have exactly Vanish. And even then, if they play Vanish, you just replay all your 1-1s and you kill them next turn.
Ukraine also running a copy of Sap. It's not a standard list. What's he cut for this Sap in this Fan of Knives?
I think Wax Elementals look like they've got the axe in this deck, as it's 2 Wax Elementals for 1 Sap, 1 Fan of Knives. Which is an interesting trade-off. Wax Elemental isn't, despite the fact of being a taunt minion, I find it that good in this matchup, because early on you just play it and it gets perfectly traded off with the 1-1s. There's no overkill on the Divine Shield, if you will. And obviously Fan of Knives is just going to be better in this matchup.
Brewmasters are very good, but just a little bit too slow for this onslaught that Ukraine are about to receive. They need to draw Vanish sooner rather than later. If they can coin Vanish on turn 5, maybe they'll have a chance, but it's getting really dicey.
So for Taiwan here, they obviously had the option, as Real kind of emoted when he drew it. Or, well, with his face, not in the game. Blood Knight could have been made into a absolutely massive minion there. What, like a 15-15 on this turn? Yeah. Which is kind of weak to the sap that you know is in their deck, or even just freezes that your opponent could throw down. So you probably would rather go wider on this turn, set up for the level up. I like the level-headed play here from Taiwan, just sticking to their guns. Their win condition is level up on turn 5, so let's just go for that.
So how does Ukraine beat level up on turn 5 now is the question. Like, does Giggling Inventor even do enough? It just doesn't, does it?
Well, 1 Giggling Inventor may not. Oh, are they wouldn't be dead on board, right? Would they? It would be... No. Oh, plus the 4, it would be 1 off lethal? I think, right, because all of those go up to 3/3s, attack, 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 attack.
Yeah, you're right.
And then it would be...
It'd be
12,
like
16 damage, yeah. So coin Giggling on this turn, maybe with a Shadow Step as well. Maybe you want to be completing the quest with Giggling Inventor, as absurd as it sounds, just because of how much stall potential it gives you. Oh no, wait, they have the Blood Knight. So they just sap away the Divine Shields. So it would just be lethal if...
Well, no, because they can't play Blood Knight and level up, can they?
Oh yeah, of course, sorry, yeah.
So Ukraine going to start bouncing this Giggling now. It's Neria's only chance to win this game. Not quite dead on board, as you said. It's only 1 or 2 off lethal. But there's a level up.
Yeah, taking the trades, pushing the damage to face, saying if you haven't got exactly the Vanish, this game is simply over. Because even just one giggling now is not enough. You can go giggling and bounce it. Sorry, bounce it back again. They have too many attacks on board. You will just die. 2 damage off lethal.
Yeah, that's what I counted to, but didn't want to contradict you.
It's all right.
But either way, Ukraine concedes. Taiwan take the 2nd win in a row, blisteringly fast. I don't know what to say, Derek. Your team are doing a pretty good job today.
They are indeed. This is my kind of Hearthstone. My team winning. Nice, quick games. No nonsense with Odd Warrior, boring, slow games. I just want to smoke some people down, and Taiwan are putting in an absolute tour de force here.
Well, the score is 2-0, and after the break, we're going to find out whether or not Taiwan can take it all the way with a 3-0 win. We'll be back soon. Welcome back to the Hearthstone Global Games. Taiwan is kicking Ukraine's butt right now with a blisteringly fast, aggressive start. But I think things are going to start to get a little bit more tricky for Taiwan as we move into this next game. It's going to be Taiwan on the Malygos Druid versus Ukraine on Death Rattle Hunter.
Yeah, I would definitely agree with you there. It's a pretty miserable matchup, I find, for the Malygos Druid. This is basically one of the main reasons that Death Rattle Hunter is so prevalent in this meta, because it preys on the vast majority of Druid decks, which is a huge amount of ladder and a huge amount of tournament play. Obviously, here at the Global Games, you've got to bring all 9 classes, but bringing these anti-Druid decks like Death Rattle Hunter, Big Druid, Quest Rogue, it allows you to leave up Druid and almost guarantee yourself a pretty good matchup the vast majority of the time. As I imagine here for Ukraine, if they can find any kind of start with eggs, cubes, Keleseth, all that nonsense, they should be able to get this back up to 2-1.
So just how good is this matchup, Derek, though? Like, how much of a chance does the Druid have?
The Druid has a real chance. Like, it's still Druid. We've got to remember, they can just go Wild Growth, Nourish into Ultimate Infestation and just win the game from there. Because there's a reason that it's touted as the most powerful class in Hearthstone at the moment. But when you get off to a start like this for Old Boy, when you have 3 very good cards in this matchup, in the Egg, Sure, and Le Play Dead, you're looking to be in a very good position where, unless Taiwan can get off to that kind of absurd start I was talking about, where I would have to imagine Roger there is just chanting in Taiwanese, or sorry, in Mandarin, Wild Growth, Wild Growth, Wild Growth. That's what he's looking for in this game, and he found it.
You know the Mandarin for Wild Growth?
I do not know the Mandarin for Wild Growth. I know Ni Hao, Shixie, and that's it.
What does that's it mean?
That's it. Oh. It's weird, it's direct translation.
Well, it has to be said, Old Boy's hand is above average here with the Keleseth into 2 eggs, Play Dead, and Master Short into Savannah Highmane. It's probably about as good a curve as they could possibly get.
Yeah, the second egg doesn't improve this hand, I would say. You only want 1. The second egg is usually just, for the longest time, a 3-mana 0/3, because you got the first one to start play deading and Terrascale stalkering away. The second one will usually sit there until you play Mossy Horror to destroy it, and very possibly just add another Spreading Plague to your opponent's board, so you probably don't want to play that. But the first one, like you said, is absolutely magnificent.
Just a shame that candle shot wasn't there on turn 1. Beautiful.
Yeah, it would have curved out nicely.
But for now, I mean, I guess the only real question is, does he egg, coin, play dead, or does he just play the egg? I quite like egg, coin, play dead here, because it means next turn he can coin into Master Shore anyway. But I guess he could coin into Shore now and then go egg, play dead next turn.
That's also worth considering. Yeah, I think that's really what they're thinking about here, because if they go coin Houndmaster Short and their opponent plays Giggling Inventor or Arcane Tyrant with a Nourish, something like that, they want to be able to start rushing those minions in. And like you said, if you go just Devilsaur here, what does that allow you to do if you don't go Coin Playdead? It allows you to go Shore into Coin Highmane, but then you're not playing Playdead anywhere along the way, which is not a good plan here. So I think I like getting Houndmaster Shore down here. You only get 2 less attack in the immediate, and that's kind of counteracted by the fact that this Devilsaur, when it comes down, will have Rush.
Yes, the fact he gets a pretty much guaranteed 5/5 with Rush next turn, which will clear up this Arcane Tyrant nicely. works out perfectly for Old Boy, protecting his Houndmaster Shore, meaning that the Savannah Highmane is more likely to have Rush when that comes out. Ooh, okay.
Also worth pointing out here for Roger, however, that it was not necessarily the most simple turn, even though, you know, you're always playing Nourish, you're pretty much always ramping there, I think, because you've got two very good cards in hand. Playing the Tyrant wasn't necessarily an insta-play, because your opponent has Shore on the board, so they can rush in with any minions they have.
Like this one.
Exactly, like this 5/5. And you have Spreading Plague in hand, which usually means you want to save back your Arcane Tyrant so that you can have less minions on the board and thus get a full value Spreading Plague. It was not necessarily the easiest turn, but I guess they're thinking then by extension, if they do play the Arcane Tyrant, what can actually trade into it on this turn? The answer is a Devil Saw with an egg. And at that point, they're not too sad if that happens because they can just play the Spreading Plague and hero power it down. So it's worked out pretty well for Taiwan, if that is the line they want to go for.
Spreading Plague is very weird against Death Rattle Hunter because it feels bad because they have so many 5/5s, but then it feels good because they have so many 0/3s. Every egg that's on the board is just an extra scarab they have to deal with.
And it feels even worse when they play Mossy Horror, which Roger can obviously see isn't possible yet because while he is at 8 mana, his opponent will only be at 5 because he has done those druidy things to which I was alluding at the start of the series.
But yeah, not wanting to go for the Lich King here because it would just get traded into, and in an ideal world, Taiwan will want that Lich King to stick for a turn or two, or they at least want to play it on a board where it has the potential of sticking for a turn or two. Spider Bombs with Rush are pretty good with Play Deads in hand. Not necessary here, but imagine if that Lich King was played.
Yeah, that would be absurd. In this scenario, you would happily destroy one of these minions and get a 5/4 out of the deal as well. So I'd have to imagine if Play Dead is being played, it will go down on the egg.
Yes.
As outside of that, what are you really doing this turn? Like, the standard play, or the default play that you're looking at is just Candle Shot, Play Dead, Spider Bomb, fills up the board. You've already seen a Plague, so you're not too afraid of going wide on the board, and you can kill off one of the minions, or two of the minions at least, which is a nice way to get things rolling and force your opponent to have yet another answer, because your follow-up is so strong in the form of Savannah Highmane. I think Ukraine need to just start turning up the heat here before their opponent can play Ultimate Infestation and start pulling things back. Yeah, I like this a lot. Just play your stuff. That's why it's in your deck.
Yep, leaves Roger with only one taunt left, which means it's actually a very difficult turn for him again, because now he actually does have the option to play Alexstrasza. He could set Old Boy down to 15 and then deal the 1 damage, putting him to 14, but he doesn't seem that close to winning the game here.
Yeah, I don't think that does anything right. They have Spider Bomb on the board, so their 8/8 never sticks. You're not even close to killing them.
So what about Malfurion? Is that a better play? He can hero power down either the Spider Bomb.
Well, you probably hero power down the Devil Saw, right, and then play
trade in
2
the
Poisonous. But it looks here like they are going for the Alexstrasza through to face, thinking their win condition is what? You play Spreading Plague and hope for a wide board they can't deal with.
Well, now they want that Tyrant. They want to hide that Tyrant behind this next Spreading Plague. This would have been the ideal time to play it by the looks of things.
Well, they would have been even further behind on the board then, because they wouldn't have been able to hero power down the 5/5 or the 5/1 after it traded into the Tyrant.
Oh, that's true.
But we can clearly see, while this is a brave gambit from Taiwan, it's not looking at the moment at least like it's going to be working out.
To be fair to Taiwan, their whole game plan this series so far has been just walk the opponent down as quickly as possible, and it's worked out for them, so can't blame them for wanting to kind of keep that strategy up. However, this is looking like this game is coming to an end. Swipe's not the worst draw in the world, though. Spreading Plague naturalized the 3-5.
Yeah, I mean, if you're doing that, like, maybe you just play Malfurion because it gets down 5 health. You can gain 8 health if you want with the hero power. He's going to be breaking through both the Scarab, so Plague will still be good next turn. I think you just want to get that hero power online at this point.
That Houndmaster Shore has done so much work this game.
Oh yeah, it's just been absurd. Like Coin Shore was the play that has won Old Boy this game.
And again, it's just worth pointing out, Shaw has 6 health. It's actually not that easy to deal with on turn 4.
It's very difficult to deal with. Like, it's the best statted 4-drop. 3/6 is exactly what you're looking for. In the end, they're thinking going for the biggest plague possible is our only real chance here. They kind of need to go in on the fact that Ukraine doesn't have an answer to deal with this, right?
As we can see, there are no more minions left in Ukraine's hand, for sure. So Taiwan sort of almost get rewarded for leaving it alive. However, Grizzly is a pretty good minion.
And I guess the extra scarab you get of going for swipe on the high main is a little bit more valuable than getting down the Malfurion. And you don't want to give your opponents cards with Naturalize either. But still, that's sure, a charging Grizzly, hero power still to face every single turn.
Even the Hunter's Mark allowing one of those 2/2s to trade in. So if Old Boy wanted to go or the weapon, like Old Boy could Hunter's Mark one of them, put the weapon in, put a 2/2 in, put the Grizzly into one, put the other 2/2 into another, and Shaw into that one, put the Devil Saw into one. Dealing with all but one of them, right?
I mean, Ukraine here have to be thinking, we're just going to get Malagos double Moonfired next turn, right? Unless they kill off everything here. Malagos double Moonfired Naturalized would, I guess, be the only way they die with the Taunt in the way now. Yeah, I think I like this. Like, you're going to be seeing more 1/5s probably at some point if Malfurion comes down. If the Lich King, Malagos comes down, you need to find ways to deal with that.
Second Naturalized, but because Old Boy only has 2 cards in his hand, it feels so detrimental to play these.
It does not feel good, but I think you have to, right? You go Malfurion, Naturalize the bear, and then you hero power down the Shore, and finally you've dealt with that Houndmaster Shore, which has done so much for Ukraine in this game. And at that point, Taiwan are not actually in the worst situation ever, right? They've stabilized on the board, mostly. Their opponent's hand sucks.
Yeah, but they're giving Old Boy more cards. Like, at the moment, the hand sucks. And I think if Roger could achieve that board state with the Naturalizers without playing the Naturalizers, then they'd be in a good position. But because of that card draw, because of that downside that's always been there as part of Naturalize, the reason that Naturalize wasn't played for the first 3 or so years of Hearthstone
is because it's not a very good card.
Right.
Yeah. It is a necessary evil in this situation.
I'm not disagreeing that it's the only play here, but it's just...
It's not a happy play.
Yeah. How much work would Rexar do here, for example?
Even a Terrascale Stalker is not that bad, right? You can go for Flanking Strike on one of the Spiders.
We didn't actually talk about Spiders versus Scarabs there. Do you think Spiders was obvious?
I think it was probably better here, right? There's no way for them to even break through the Scarabs on board, so you're not afraid of King Crush coming in to close out the game. It is obviously riskier, I suppose. I mean, I don't even want to say riskier. It's less defensive, at least immediately. But I think the ability to fight back on the board, maybe without even having to play another Naturalize, is so valuable if it hits. It's obviously weaker to Deathstalker Rexar, but they would have to hit that off the top, right? Because if they didn't, they would have already played it, I think.
Well, but my counter-argument to that is off the top doesn't mean within the next 3 cards.
You have given that 3. But if they don't, like, they are more likely, I would say, to draw Katharina or King Crush or, you know, any of their other big cards. So you want to have an ability to play around that.
Yep, I agree.
And if they hit Mossy Horror, everything dies anyway. So.
Oh, it's a good job that Shore's gone, isn't it?
As now Ukraine are saying, we've seen 2 copies of Spreading Plague. And we've seen Malfurion. There are no more Scarabs in your deck. We are going as wide as we possibly can on this board, and we're going to kill you real quick. An Arcane Tyrant is not the draw that Roger was looking for.
However, Lich King deal with the biggest minions. Roger has to hero power defensively. Or he could Naturalize, but that's pretty risky to me.
Bad.
So he's trading the Spiders into the 5/5s, I guess, developing the Lich King. According to the board right now, Lich King survives. That's something.
Yep, it's your best shot at taking this, and then you hope that you can get Death and Decay, Death Coil, something like that. Maybe a Death Impact even.
It's Death Coil, right? Or Frostmourne. Roger just needs the damage here to finish off.
Oh, yeah, right.
Or the healing.
Lethal, yeah.
Good. Death and Decay is no good because of the eggs.
Oh, you could actually go offensive here, right?
Or Naturalize the 4/4.
Yeah. Oh no, I mean attack face. Like,
Oh.
it is worth considering here, I think, right?
Yeah.
You've seen a spider bomb, so you're a little bit less afraid of this Lich King dying.
What?
You do want to start winning the game.
Sets up the 2-turn lethal, doesn't it? Regardless of which
Yes,
Death Knight card
assuming your Lich King doesn't die. Oh. Don't end up going for it in the end, because if you're met with Hunter's Mark, Candle Shot, Death Coil is pretty good. The Carnivorous Cube, though, can just be thrown down instantly on that egg, I think. You have no Death Rattle activators, so you just want to go as wide as you can on the board. This accomplishes exactly that.
Candle Shot does the job
Yep.
of dealing with the Lich King. Roger didn't look very happy about that as he just shouted something.
But still, he can deal with this board, right? He can go Naturalize Death Coil, which leaves only 2 eggs on his opponent's side of the board. It will draw 2 cards, but what alternative does he have?
That's a good alternative.
That's an alternative that you have.
That's a good alternative. And now at this point,
you can just Death Coil Hero Power then, right? I mean, Death Coil down the 5/5 and Hero Power back up.
Does he even do that, or does he start to try and get lethal? Like, what actually kills Roger from this position?
Mossy Horror.
Yeah, you're right, Mossy Horror. Okay, good answer. That egg that's been held onto since like turn 3 could easily be a Mossy Horror.
Even then, I don't think that would actually be a Mossy Horror. I think that would have destroyed his whole board and probably been played. So it's exactly Mossy Horror off the top that Taiwan need to be afraid of. But then they need to think, how good of a spot are they in? If they think by playing Giggling and Death Calling the 5/5 they never lose, go for that. If the only way you lose is Mossy Horror, play around that. But I don't think Taiwan are necessarily in that good of a situation. If Ukraine get Katharina, if they even just get a King Crush, those are some big minions they're throwing down onto the board.
So maybe the aggressive play is the better one then. Hero Power the face here, and then have Hero Power face, Giggling Inventor itself, and Death Coil hit face for lethal next turn. It is a 2-turn setup.
And here they are thinking, clearly their situation is not that good. They have to go for the risky play of maybe being blown out by Mossy Horror. But we can see now for Ukraine, they can deal with one of these taunts, right?
It's just lethal for Taiwan next
And then
turn.
that's just lethal.
Amazing! No Malygos in sight whatsoever, but Taiwan have managed to weather the storm of what was a fantastic opening from Old Boy. Let's make no mistake about that. That was an incredible opening from the Death Rattle Hunter, but Roger has actually done it.
There's no tricks that can be pulled here by Old Boy. And I've got to be honest as well, Roger played this game very differently to how I would have played it. That Alex Raza to face on turn 9, I probably just would not have done that. I was thinking, there's no way you get the damage through to face here, right? You just need to play more defensively, hope to draw an ultimate infestation, and grind them out of resources. But for Taiwan here, with the perfect Death Coil, you can see how pumped Roger is about that one. What a cool game.
I am completely speechless. Taiwan have just achieved one of the best 3-0s in the Hearthstone Global Games that I've seen against Ukraine, one of the teams doing the very best in the tournament, both this year and last year. What a series.
That was pretty unbelievable. I would still argue, despite that Taiwan are my pick, Ukraine are probably the best team we have here in the Global Games. Both, maybe I wouldn't have said that coming in, but just the fact that they have done so well so far. They were 4-0 before this pretty resounding loss for them here. But for Taiwan, my boy's done me proud.
Most importantly, you've taken a notch off of Dan Gaskin's caster prediction.
Oh, I know, Daniel. Don't worry.
Let's take a look one more time at the matchup that we just watched. And we're going to see a lot of green on one side and a lot of red on the other as Taiwan achieved, again, possibly the fastest series that we've had in the Hearthstone Global Games with a turn 6 win on the Zoo. Was it even turn 5? It was turn 5, wasn't it? Fungal.
Yeah.
Turn 5 win on the Zoo, something like turn 7 on the Paladin, and then the incredible comeback with Malygos Druid versus Death Rattle Hunter. This is a great series, and if you've just tuned in now at the end, you should go back and rewatch that. And
this was a good demonstration of why the pros talk so favorably about the Malygos Druid, because it's always, your fate is your own to decide. You can play it so differently in every single game. And you can usually find yourself, if you see the perfect way to go for it, in a victory, unless you get the worst RNG ever.
They didn't get a Spellstone, they didn't get Malygos, they didn't get any of these key cards for the deck. They just relied on well-placed Naturalize and a very nicely timed Giggling Inventor.
As we see what was not even really a close game here. Naria's face says it all. Pretty dumbstruck there as he's just blown out of the game. And for Taiwan here, like you said, it was kind of the power of Naturalize, but for me, it was just the power of play.
Yeah.
It just shows what it can do in this matchup. Even when they have a bunch of 5/5s attacking you for phase, if they just leave 1 or 2 Scarabs not being dealt with, it's 6 mana that just buys you 2 turns, right? And weakens your opponent's board quite considerably.
This was certainly the game of the series for me, and it was just such an amazing win. It turned out that last turn with Taiwan, if they did go Hero Power face the turn before, it would have also been lethal. Like the Arcane Tyrant versus the Hero Power, aggressive Hero Power didn't really matter. What did matter is that he didn't waste the mana with a defensive Hero Power. That would have been the game-losing play, I guess. Either way, that is game 1, or match 1 finished for the day. Taiwan finishing up with a 4-1 score. Ukraine also now with the, actually, no.
The 4-1.
Yeah, they also end up with a 4-1 score because they weren't the same score coming in.
And with that, my team's through. I think that pretty much guarantees Taiwan through to the top 16 at this point, which brings a tear to my eye.
Next up, though, it's going to be Belarus versus Indonesia, and loser of that series will be leaving the Hearthstone Global Games. That's coming up right after this.